The Ebola Syndrome is an exploitation category 3 film directed by Herman Yao and starring Anthony Wong. It is one of those ones he made back in the 90s, really extreme. This one is about a low-level gangster who had sex with the boss's wife, and when he gets caught, the wife is all like, oh, he tried to seduce me, punish him, and she throws him under the bus. So he's about to get punished when he decides to fight back, and he ends up killing everyone there and goes on the run. And he ends up in South Africa, where he's working low wage for a restaurant. He's been there for years, he's been on the run, but in South Africa they don't care. And everything seems to be fine, except that him and his boss, they don't want to spend too much on pork meat. So they go to this Zulu tribe in the middle of nowhere where they have an Ebola outbreak. And unbeknownst to his boss, the main character, he has sex with a woman passed out. He's a rapist, and he gets Ebola. But he doesn't die from it. He ends up being just a carrier. So he recovers and starts infecting everyone around him. And then his boss gets mad at him, so he ends up killing his boss and his boss's wife, infecting everyone and making meat out of their bodies, because it's one of those exploitation films where they try to be as gross as possible. So there's people spitting in other people's faces, there's all sorts of crazy shit like that. And there seems to be a weird human cannibalism thing that Herman Yao was doing in the 90s, because he also did that in The Untold Story, even though it's based off a real story, in real life. But it's an urban legend that the guy who killed those people at the Eight Immortals restaurant used human flesh for the pork buns because they found the rest of the body. So what did he use, So this movie does that too. It just throws it in there. And the movie slows down because he flees the country again and goes to Hong Kong, where he gets some money and he decides to just sort of live his life and reconnect with an old woman. And it turns into a very generic sort of pandemic movie. He's causing an outbreak. It's a very simple movie. It wasn't as crazy as The Untold Story, but this one, it was kind of boring, to be honest. After he leaves South Africa, the movie dips because a lot of people are told about it, but they just don't do anything about it. There's this character who survived his attack at the beginning of the movie. She's grown up, and she's all like, "It's him," and they're like, "Nah, it's not." So the movie, it's not too concerned with being a sort of virus infection movie, but more of just an exploitation film. And they try to, it almost feels like if they didn't have the scene where him killing his boss and the boss's wife, it'd be a very boring movie. So Ebola Syndrome is not one of the better ones I've seen in terms of these violent Hong Kong exploitation films, so I give it a 4 out of 10.